Normally for me, man, like I said, the most important thing, when it comes to not just collecting and when it comes to life in general is the if you're passionate about something, definitely be 100% real about it. Embrace it. Um, don't compromise. Don't compromise and don't become something because of someone else's influence. Stick to your guns. If you love it, be passionate about it and be unapologetically into just connecting with it and letting people know this is where you are and this is who you are. Acceptance isn't you know worrying about someone accepting you is not your job.
With great power comes great responsibility.
That's a good note to end on, isn't it? Or start on. It's like with great power. One of the
Great
most classical
responsibility.
lines.
Yeah, definitely, bro. Definitely, man.
Wherever you are, guys, thank you for joining us. Really excited for this one. Toys. I love toys, as you can see, and this fandom and everything about it. So I'm quite excited to have Lael with us today. 1/6 scale, man. Gotta make sure I get that right. So
Appreciate that, man.
Like, what state are you in?
I'm actually in Pennsylvania right now. I'm in Harrisburg, PA. Been
So
here
we're
now. Yep.
what's the time there? We're midday here.
Well, it's 8 p.m., 8:05 p.m. here. Like it's
wow.
late. Yeah, like it's just actually in the evening time. So again, New Zealand being, definitely.
We're in the future, so it's like Sunday midday here.
Yeah.
Usually it's about
Always.
2 hours in Texas, and I'm like, now it's 3 hours. It's like it's really hard trying to work it.
Whenever the time, definitely when we experience like the time change, that affects us as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we're about to head into daylight saving, so our clocks will go forward 1 hour, I think, to give us more light.
Yeah, got you.
So before we head off, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What's your background? And then we'll head off into, discussion.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Like, well, of course, 1/6 Scale Man YouTube channel, definitely. Lael Rockwell. Pretty much, I've been collecting. You might as well say all my life, man. Like, I mean, I've been collecting, since I would want to say like around 1976, 77. At a young age, a very young age, that I was thrusted into this world of, imagination and collecting and stuff like that. So I've been collecting on and off. Like definitely, I'm a bona fide comic book collector, but then figure collecting has been my niche, now for years. Like, definitely since I was young. Started with like Kenner, moved to Mattel. Just with figures when it comes to like GI Joe, Transformers with Hasbro, stuff like that. So I've been kind of skirting around. Star Wars has always been my thing. Even Black Series, collecting overseas when it came to some of the Gundam figures. But then I came across Hot Toys, 1/6 Scale collecting, and I think 2013, 2014. And yeah, never looked back ever since, man. I've been doing this now for a while. I've been a YouTuber. I want to say basically I started my channel in I think it was 2018, 2019 is when I started the channel, but then I was just basically doing reviews. I didn't really start doing live streams until like 2020. Once the pandemic hit, I started out with Paradox Nerd first, and then from there I just branched off and started doing my own thing. Never looked back. Just been doing the same thing ever since, man.
That's awesome, man. I was like 77. What?
Yeah,
I was 4 years old in Fiji. It's like I
bro. I was born in 1973, of course. Yeah, but again,
so we're in the same year, basically.
Yeah, we're definitely in the same year. But for me, I just started. I mean, I think pretty much I started around the same time. Like I said, the first time that I basically saw New Hope in theaters, or Star Wars at that time, and then after that, I just went down that road and never looked back. Yeah.
There's something about I think Star Wars that the toy things just grabbed, across everybody. But I mean, for myself, I didn't know anything about that until I came to New Zealand, right around about probably 81.
Yeah.
I'm like 9 years old or 8 years old and really didn't understand what was going on.
Mhm.
But because we never had TV in Fiji, we had videos.
Yeah.
So the only way we watched any movies was at the theater or
Hmm.
on a video at a
Hmm.
private person's house,
Yeah.
and there was no TV. And
Exactly.
you'd be in, like, I'm not sure what it was. It's like people in Fiji have their house here, house there, house there. It's a family village type home setting, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Their yard. And so you'd show up at the richer person's house and they'd bring out a table, put the TV on there with a video player. The TV's about
Hmm.
this big, not this big. And you're about 30 people just watching.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Like 8 o'clock at night watching this. And like, it's like a communal thing. That's your theater.
Yep.
And so I don't understand that you could have that in your own home because we can afford that in Fiji,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think, like, I remember watching all these all amazing TV shows like Fantasy Island, Star Trek, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
just
bro.
you know, I mean, I'm a Trekkie, so it's like that was my first sort of yes, this imagination got thrown out there. But I mean, I know like majorly for I think especially with American kids, I think growing up, Star Wars was the thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
think that was?
I think basically because Star Wars, and like I said, it's this differentiate, it's the differentiation of both.
Yeah.
Star Wars itself, that level of it, dealt with more mysticism.
Mm.
It dealt with, more of the samurai element. George Lucas tapped into something that was
Yeah.
completely different from what we knew. Star Trek, for them, and again, like I said, I mean, I was raised, we were raised around the same time. So watching Star Trek, was definitely something within the household. But
Mhm.
for me, I connected more to Star Wars because of the lore and also
Right.
because of like some of the religious preferences that were basically thrown in, dealing with the
Mm-hmm.
Force, dealing with like even certain political aspects.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was just the mysticism of the Jedi, space battles,
Yeah.
everything that was, that encompassed, what we knew,
Mm.
about the lore. So that's, pretty much been my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just basically been, a part of my life all my life. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I coexist and where my life kind of, ended up. So yeah.
It kind of gives me a good segue to step back and actually talk about you. What brought you to this journey, and because a
Hmm.
lot of times I'm like when we're talking, it's podcasts and stuff, and we're talking about what we do, and sh- you know, unboxing and so on, or reviews and stuff. We don't actually talk about ourselves. So I'm going to
Hmm.
give you a chance to do that. So, where did you grow up? How did you? What was that like? You're moving around. If you did that, what was it like?
Hmm.
What was like going to school and stuff on this
So,
journey to where you are now?
well, a lot of it, for me, I started out basically as well. Again, my mother and my father, like my father moved to the United States in about 19, I think it was like 1967. He
Mm.
was basically born and raised in Cuba. He moved from Cuba to the United States, met my mother. My mother was a nurse. Basically she, was a nurse, and then she became like a traveling nurse, just
Mm.
freelancing at different places. But also because of her degree, she was able to go to different places. She opted to travel. So when she met my father, like first she met him actually here in Harrisburg, but then actually no, she met him in New York City first.
Mm.
They lived in New York first, Queens. Again, shout out to everybody out there, Queens representing all day, Queensboro thorough. But in Edgemere, we lived there. And then from there we moved to Harrisburg. Then from Harrisburg, we moved back to New York. We moved from New York
Yeah.
to down south, from down south to, back. It was just always basically a transition back and forth. But because of that, I think
Mm.
through my travels is when I learned how to really associate my imagination with life and like the imagination became more of an escape because again, I
Yeah.
didn't really connect. It was hard for me. I made friends. I made a lot of friends, but
Yeah.
to basically stay close knit, I tried not to get too close because I knew, like I said, I
Mm.
would eventually leave and move away.
Yeah.
Um, as I got older, but basically I think that latching on to that just kind of, imagination and collecting became more of a less of a hobby, but a way of life, and also helped
Yeah.
me develop certain things and find certain things about myself.
Yeah.
But also I was able to connect with people that were just like me. Like they say, you give off certain energy, you'll receive that same
Yeah.
energy back, depending on where you're at, your environment.
Yeah.
You become a product of it. So that's just the way it was. Shout out to my baby. She's actually stopping through
Hey,
to say
Latoya.
hi. But yeah, man, like it's always been, my thing. You know what I mean? Like Star Wars has always been that connective tissue. Collecting has always been that connective tissue.
Mm.
Reading comics, also I think it grounded me.
Mm.
There's a lot of things I could have been doing, throughout the years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think for a lot of us, life could have been completely different. But I'm
Yeah.
glad that I settled in this particular space. So I'm happy about
Mm.
it. You know what I mean?
So, your dad's from Cuba, and your mom's American,
Mm-hmm.
and you said
Yes,
that she
yes.
had like she said like was it PhDs or something that got her to move around.
Yeah,
What
she's a
was
nurse. She was a nurse. She
right?
basically went to school for nursing. She studied as, she became a nurse.
Yeah.
And, basically now she's retired, but
Yeah.
she was always a supportive individual. She was always a supportive parent,
Mm. Mm.
making sure that, whatever we wanted to do, as
Yeah.
long as it was something in us, as long
Yeah.
as um, she knew that for us, um, we were grounded in certain spaces, certain
Mm.
things we became more accustomed to because of our circumstance, of because
Yeah.
where we were like in life.
Yeah.
And I think she understood that. And not really, I had a lot of friends, in different places, but knowing
Mm.
that we were going to leave, it was just kind of hard to make that transition. So she's been
Yeah.
extremely supportive. Even to this day, she still watches all my shows, making
It's
sure
awesome.
that she's, basically there to, really show some support. So yeah, I'm definitely
It's
happy
cool.
about that, man. I've really come from a grounded family.
Yeah.
My father, rest in peace. He passed in 2010. But you know what I mean. Definitely, I come from a really grounded, supportive family
Mm.
who, knows what I love, and
Yeah.
even a supportive companion.
Yeah.
She supports me wholeheartedly every single day. That's just basically my backbone. But again, we're lucky to be in this space where we have
Yeah.
something like this.
I think I like my sister. We went up north yesterday. She's a nurse.
Hmm.
Her husband, my brother-in-law Les, he's an administrator at a hospital here, just down the road from us.
Yeah,
And his mum was a nurse as well.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's it's such a hard job. A lot of people don't
Hmm.
realize it. It's such a
Hmm.
tough job. I mean,
It is. It is.
my sister just moved into cancer ward to look up, to administer cancer patient,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
drugs
yeah,
to
yeah.
patients and stuff like that. It's a lot of stress uh, when like stuff, especially when a patient you're looking after passes away. You
Yeah.
don't really think about that, what that
Hmm.
does to mentally to a person,
Hmm.
and having to deal with it like on and off throughout the year. And I
Yeah.
see that in her, like, and I think for me, I come from a very, like myself, I don't come from a very grounded family unit, but I see her family is really grounded and how much she cares for that family unit. Well,
Hmm.
you've got a son who's like into music and singing and has got his band. You've got a daughter who just wants to go out and help people and take after her mum and dad. And then you've got another child who's like just Star Wars fan, right? Because of
Yeah.
I've kind of like raised him for about 3.5 years old. Um, for about a year and a half watching the first three Star Wars, the originals, and
Yeah.
while I was babysitting him. So I'd have him for 2 hours, I think from about midday, because my sister used to go to work at 1 and do a night shift.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
my
yeah.
brother-in-law would come back, so I'd be just up the road. So I'd have him for 3 hours, and we'd put the movies on DVD and just sit here and lie on my chest as a baby and just watch. What are we doing today? Star Wars. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And now, like, he's just sort of like moved on from that at the age of like 11 or 12, and I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, and I think, he's just like us. He's very creative, very imaginative and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people don't give enough credit to that grounded family unit.
Yeah, bro.
And when you don't have it, what you have missed when you see
You
other
know
people
it.
have it.
It's like it because,
Mm.
and the thing is, it's like, I mean, people like us are fortunate, but also it's one of those situations where we, as much as we are tight knit, some of us,
Mm.
have different scopes, but we still
Yeah,
support each other.
yeah,
We just do certain things differently. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so it's like literally like, the driving force for me is to have that that connective tissue. I don't even think, because like, we grow, as we grow, we develop,
yeah,
different relationships, even with family. Like sometimes we go in opposite directions, but we're still
yeah.
grounded, with each other. And,
Mm.
we still keep in contact. We still support each other. But I don't think that if I wasn't in the situation I'm in right now with my
Mm.
companion, like I always wanted to feel that, companion, or have that close knit relationship with someone who
Yeah,
supports, is that supporting system that
yeah,
understands what I do. And sometimes that it is like an escape, a break away from what we're used to. So,
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I think I mean, it's hard if you don't have that, because I've been in situations where like it's been pulling, like, why are you doing this? Why do you buy this stuff? What is it about this? When someone, like, I was married for about 9 years with a nice lady who came from Fiji, but doesn't understand the fantasy universe, the pop culture, that didn't grow up with it, that doesn't know anything about comics or toys, but has seen the movies. So there's no connection between the merchandise or the imagination to what she sees on TV or the movies. And I think it's hard when it's like you're getting pulled in two directions, because it's like my sister. I'm like, why don't you sell your toys? I'm like, it's like, why would I
It's
sell my
not, why
babies?
would I sell? Exactly. Right. You're
Why would I sell
connected
my
to,
babies, man?
like,
Come on.
why would you do it? Like, I've never, and that's the thing,
Yeah,
is because my family, and that's the beauty of having my family, because they know me. My sister, like, literally, I think it was a few years back for my birthday,
yeah,
she knows what I'm into, so she supports that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, she knows this is what I love, so this becomes more of a
yeah.
support system. And I think that's great. Like, I really, really
Mm.
think it's great. Like, they would never, they know, because this is a part of my life.
Yeah,
This in music. I have a
yeah.
degree in music and engineering, so I kind
Awesome.
of put that to
Yeah.
good use as well when I'm doing certain things. All songs you hear on my
Mm.
channel, or if I'm, on my live, on my videos, especially my Take
Mm.
Your Position videos and stuff like that, all
Yeah,
produced by me. So, I put that to good use.
yeah.
Everything is, it's all, it's a full circle, always makes itself
Mm.
back around. Like, one thing supports the other. And that's even
Yeah,
with families. So, they know not to ever ask
yeah,
me to sell anything. It's not gonna work.
yeah. I think it's just some sort of like, it's if you don't have that connection to something that tight, right? Like we do as fans, as who've grown up in this medium, and it's like you just, yeah, there's a tie that's hard to understand if you're outside looking in. It's like, why do
Hmm.
you keep doing that? Why do you, like, why do you go to the $500, figure? Why do you need that right now? You know, it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's the thing is, it's like, we know that there is things in life that do take over, and
yeah,
that sometimes we have to, sort of like draw back from the things that we
yeah,
love, just because we have to be more responsible. But
yes,
this, I always look at as a responsibility as well, because it's a
yeah,
responsibility to my mental space. You know what I mean? Because
exactly,
it gives me a certain level of comfort. it supplies that euphoric need for creation. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I get, and I tell my girl all the time, like sometimes she knows, and I'm always a work in progress because I'm always striving for a higher level of creativity. But then sometimes it's like, I, get down on myself because I'm not really in that space. Like sometimes things take over and I kind of get like a block because I'm just so boggled down by everything else. I mean, a lot of us have full-time jobs and, we work and do certain things. And sometimes that even takes away from, what it is that we do. So she gets it. She understands it. She understands where I'm at though.
Yeah. I think, you could easily, like, I always think of it like this way. Well, you could easily go and spend that money on alcohol, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now I have something physical, right, that hasn't been wasted away. And I think there's that understanding that is disconnected because of that. And like I said, having that support base is so awesome and so cool because you're sort of moving in the same direction. You're lifting each other up, and you're not working against each other. And of course, there is wisdom in that. Like you said, you got sometimes things happen, and you got to make sure that there is, finances there to make sure it's, you're not stuck or something. I think, this is really amazing period we live in where there's access to so much what we didn't have in the 80s and 90s or even in the 2000s. Because of the changes to like the productions of toys and figures and such, and merchandise, and just an easy access to actual creators to be able to do that as well themselves. To be able to 3D printing has made that so much easier, right?
To
produce
create your own, especially like I don't, and that's the thing is like I always thought like, I need to get a 3D printer. Like I really need to invest in getting a 3D printer, man, because I would be able to do so much of what I really want to do if I had one. But I haven't really dove into it, but I think I am because I think that it would be exciting to do it, bro. I know it would.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about because you're being raised in this, this is part of your life, who makes up who you are. You yourself know what you're going to do when you do it, right? Because you have so many stories that you've been playing around with forever. And to just finally being able to go, okay, this is what I want to do. It's my figure will like this. It's like customization, right? I have friends who customize. I can't. I just don't know how to do that. My brain doesn't think that way because I'm more of a okay, cool. I'll go spend the money.
Get that, and it's already. I get it. I get it, man.
I'm like, it's here. Look at this amazing thing. It's like, cool. Like, okay, that'll do. Where's the knives? Where's the swords? Whatever.
You can pose it. You can do things. You can do your own.
Yeah.
You can create your own interpretation, and that's that. I think that's one of the reasons why, for me, collecting 1/6 scale figures, being able to really expand in that way, bro. It's like no other. But I mean, hell, we've been doing this for years. You know what I mean? Like it's not that we're new to this space. We've been doing this now for years, and I think there's definitely an appreciation for it, man.
Now you mentioned moving around. Was that due to your mom's work or your dad's
It was
work?
my mom. It was my mom. Mainly more so with work. My dad as well. My pops. He was in the military at point, but then he became a mechanic. Which that aspect of his life didn't hit me. It passed down to my niece. She's now a mechanic. But my father was a mechanic, but he was also creative. You know what I mean? And my mother she's a nurse, but she was also a musician. She plays piano. She's been playing for years. So I think I got an aspect of both, which I was very fortunate enough to basically receive. But man, I think for me it was just moving around. But you know what, and then here's the thing is like I think that aspect of travel, organizing, networking, it became a part of me to the point where as I got older I just started doing it myself. I mean, I used to live in Sydney, Australia for 10 years, 12 years, I'm sorry. So I lived there for like 12 years. I was back and forth to New Zealand, to be quite honest. Like,
Oh wow,
yeah,
awesome.
friend of mine, like she's more like my sister, Madam Parker. She's from New Zealand.
Okay.
So definitely, when we used to go down there, she used to show us around, stuff like that. But yeah, man, like, I mean, I've been I was, traveled to Japan. I lived in
Yeah.
Taipei, China for like 6 months.
Wicked.
So definitely, man, like I just became a traveling person, but I've settled down here in Harrisburg, of course, because
Mm.
this majority of my family say my mother's still here, my
Yeah.
sister's here. But yeah, man, like, I mean, I think that becomes the story of our life as well. Like, we pick up
Yeah.
customs from so many different places and it becomes
Yeah.
us and who we are. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that that mixing with other cultures is such
Hmm.
a like empowering thing,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it makes you see things from other people's perspectives, from their nationalities,
Hmm.
like what the food, the
Hmm.
way they dress, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
their belief systems. My first girlfriend was Taiwanese, you
Oh,
know,
okay.
and it was like just amazing just to see things through her eyes, and then
Hmm.
when I was 16, going on to 17, I moved away from home, for about 4 or 5 years, and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
and I was thrust into the urbanite situation, coming from a little
Hmm.
town of like a couple of thousand people to you know tens of thousands of people. And
Yeah,
I got to mix with like Pacific Islanders, Tokelauans, Cis Rarotongans, and
yeah,
it was just Nueans was just so cool. Like, just
yeah.
figuring out how they work in their ways. And it's just, like it's kind of having that. What age were you like moving around? Like, like you were.
I started when I was very young. It was around,
Mm,
5 years old. At first,
mm,
all the way up until like my
mm.
teenage years, so about, I want to say 12, 13 years old. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, 12, 13, 14 years old, just moving around,
Mm,
from different high schools, different locations. So yeah, it was pretty much a part of
mm.
my life.
Yeah.
To the point where I had to also
Mm,
realize that, um, you know, I had to ground myself,
yeah.
in a sense. I had to kind of ground myself to the point where I didn't get consumed by just that lifestyle, because I knew
Mm,
I needed to kind of ground myself, and become accustomed to the space that I was in. Because the thing is, it's not, doing something like that, you also you have to be conscious of the people that you meet or the person that you allow in your life,
right.
if that's
Yeah.
something that they want to do. And, eventually we know, me and Toya know we want to travel. I mean, we want to move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's just that right now we're waiting it out, just staying focused in one particular place until
Yeah.
the moment, basically presents itself, but
Yeah.
yeah, I used to call myself, and if anybody's familiar with like, Fraggle Rock, I used to
Yeah.
call myself Uncle Traveling Matt, because I used to always travel everywhere, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed watching that when I was a kid growing up, the early
Yeah, yeah,
morning,
yeah.
getting up early to watch it, and yeah, I think, and then seeing all those postcards, right, from so and so, from here and there, and that, it's just teaching. It's kind of like Dora the Explorer, in a
Yeah, yeah,
sense,
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
this generation or the generation before ours. But it's yeah, I think you got to travel. You just cannot stay one place. I mean, I've never stayed one place more than maybe 10 years, and that's only because, due to work I'd stay there, but I've always moved around. And I've been to a couple countries, but like, when was the first time you went overseas? you know
So the very first time, because we used to travel when I was young, we used to travel back and forth to Cuba. So
right.
basically, when I was very young, we used to go to Havana a lot.
Mm,
I think I've been to Havana, Cuba like 2 times. But that was my first taste of it. But traveling on my own, I think started when I was young. Of course, high school, the first place we went to was
Yeah.
Cancun, Mexico.
Yeah.
But then after that, like once as I grew, I started traveling. Once I got my degree, I traveled back and forth. I went to Australia first. That was my first
Yeah.
real time traveling, and
What
that's
year was
across
that?
the equator. So
Yeah.
that was in 2005 originally when I traveled to Sydney, Australia.
Right.
And then after that, that's when I picked up the traveling bug and started traveling everywhere.
Yeah.
Going to China, going to New Zealand, going to Japan, going to Germany, going to Australia. Just that's when I picked. Just recently, like
Yeah.
last year, we went to Star Wars Celebration in London. So
Wow.
we were definitely there. That was fun. Like we're planning on going to
Mm,
Japan, back to Japan in
mm.
2025. That's the plan.
Awesome.
I still don't know right now how
Yeah.
that's going to work out. Like we have no idea, but we know that's where we want to go.
Yeah.
Man.
There's two places I want to travel to. It's Japan and Machu Picchu. That's all,
Mm-hmm,
and maybe go to America because I've got friends there, and business there. But I mean, but definitely Japan. I just, I'm so in love with like the style of the culture. It's
mm-hmm,
kind of
mm-hmm.
similar to ours, but not. It's like the total
Yeah.
opposite again. What was it like living in Aussie for 10 years? I mean, like for an American, right? You
Bro,
know,
it was completely amazing.
yeah,
I have to say it was definitely amazing. Living there for like 10 years. Again, because I just graduated from high school. I mean, not high school, from college, with a
yeah,
degree in engineering. And how it happened was a mentor of mine, or basically like someone who I studied under,
mm,
was Paul Stephanitis. He's a mix and master.
right,
Basically he's a sound engineer himself, but he
yeah,
masters and he mixes. And basically I studied under him when it came to engineering.
mm,
And once I got my degree, he was like, "Hey, you should just come down here. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And work. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And whatever." So I went for a visit the first time. I fell
mm,
in love with it, and then I just a few years later came back.
mm,
Started working as a music engineer. And just kind of got thrusted into the culture itself.
yeah,
Um, I met my first wife. And my wife at the time. I got married.
yeah,
We had a kid. My youngest baby girl. Autumn Lee.
mhm,
She's still there, but then we divorced, of course.
yeah,
And then I basically was down there for a while. But then I had my oldest here,
mm,
who, she was getting ready to start high school. So I was like, you know what, I need to go back. So I gave up everything that I had there and just came back
yeah,
here just to make sure that she got through, high school and college.
yeah.
And yeah, that was mainly it, man. That was it.
So when you were in Aussie, what was it? Was it like, do you have like kind of, culture shock to what you're used to, and where, what about the like? Did you like experience anything to do with like the amount of people compared to the amount of people in Aussie, around you? Because I know, like, I mean, when I was a kid, I went to Aussie. It's busy here than New Zealand.
Mhm,
So I could,
mhm,
so that there's like a lot more people, but we were tourists when we were there, so you only saw touristy stuff.
mhm.
But now it's so much more people there. In 2005, in that period there to 15, what was it like, being around that environment, like while you're working, because you're doing the sound engineering there as well? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, and you mean talking about in Australia?
yeah, yeah,
It was, bro. It was
mm,
it was a beautiful thing because, and I say this all the time, like some of the most talented individuals are in Australia. There's a lot of
mm,
talent. There's a lot of musicians there,
yeah,
and work was just a daily thing. Like work was just coming
mm,
in daily. So when I became an independent engineer,
yeah,
it was the life. I made my own hours. I
yeah,
basically just lived in the studio, working with different artists, working with different individuals. And it was beautiful, man. That's how I met, one of my best friends, Madam Parker. Like she's like a sister to me, man. She was a
mm,
musician. She actually was in Australian Idol then. And
okay,
so we basically met because around that time I had to mix some music for some of the contestants, and they would bring them through the studio and stuff like that. So she came through, we clicked, started working together, doing music and stuff like that. And yeah, after that, like, you know what I mean? Like, it just took off. Like, me, her, and my brother-in-law at that time, we were working together in music. And yeah, it just became a thing, man. But I worked with so many different artists and individuals over there, and bro, it was all love. I loved it. Like, I absolutely loved it. Now I tell you one thing I didn't like, and that was just like the insects and the things that were dangerous over there. I mean, the huntsman spiders, man. I
man.
was like, yo, I have never. I used to ask Madam, I was like, look, if I go to New Zealand, am I going to see this stuff? She's like, no. She's like, you will not see any of that. She was like, that it only exists here. And it's crazy because Sydney, Australia and New Zealand aren't that far apart. You know what I mean? And it's like, it totally polar opposites when it comes to atmosphere. And I think this because in New Zealand, they actually experience, certain, weather, like the temperature, the environment, is just, even their ecosystem is different. Like, it just smells different. It's so beautiful in New Zealand. But yeah, that's the only thing about Australia that I was like, I'm not really cool with this. But other than that, man, everything else was all love.
Well, it's like my brother, like, I've got two brothers over there, right? And and they have to have a fence, and they can't let their dog outside. The Dutch hound that they bought, he can't go outside or he'll get killed. Right?
Yeah.
Like, a snake will get him. It's like, what do you mean? We don't have, the only thing I have that's like, would be like a dog roaming, but what I do I have like a balcony garden. So I'll see like monarchs come up, and I'll raise them myself with the caterpillars on the silkweed. But also I'll have the geckos, and that's it.
Yeah.
You might see a rat, giant rat or something. That's about it. But when you're over in Aussie, you're scared for your life once you go outside.
Bro.
You might end up, spider coming up the freaking, the dunny and the outhouse or something. And next thing you're putting a shoe on, and there might be something in there. It's like, no, thank you.
Bro.
I like to be safe, so I'm okay in New Zealand. Thank you very much.
Yeah, bro. New Zealand, I was like, yo, thank God I don't have to experience some of the stuff that I experienced, over in Australia when I went to New Zealand. It was always a breakaway from it, and I felt good about it, man. Yeah, definitely.
Were you mixing here as well when you were in New Zealand?
No. So I would only just visit. Like, I would actually go over to New Zealand to visit. We did, we performed over there a few times, but that was it. Like, I mean, I met Madam's family, and just the culture of just New Zealand, and it was just, that was it. Like, we didn't, there was no, only thing that got really mixed over there was when we were working with her and her music and stuff like that. But other than that, like, I didn't do anything, of that nature over there really like that,
So, what city or province were you in when you came over to New Zealand?
We were in Christchurch for a while.
Right. The cold area.
The cold area. So we were definitely in Christ for a little bit. And that's mainly, now her family's further out. So basically she would take us there. We met because she's Tongan. So definitely, like, we met like some of her family.
Pacific Island family.
Pacific Islanders and stuff like that. So, I was even like, they adopted me into, like, I became like an adopted Polynesian, man. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. But the thing is, it's like, so much talent. I think, we talk about Australia having a lot of talent. But a lot of their talent has been they adopted a lot of talent from New Zealand because you know what I mean, just the musical influences, just the creativity and everything is there, man. And it's just love. Definitely.
I think that comes like it's like Canada, right? You have to go to America to make it, right? So in New Zealand, it's like you got to go to Aussie to make it. If you make it on Aussie, then you can make it in America,
anywhere,
right? Or in Europe. And so it's like a testing ground. It also has a reverse effect as well. So we had a band who I love, like one of our best heavy metal bands, right, of all
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
called Shehead,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
so shit hard is what it's the two words made up
Yeah, yeah,
Shehead.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So because they sounded like Jihad at that
Mhm.
time of 9/11 and stuff, and they were going to go into America, they actually had to change their name to I can't remember something else, and that really backfired for them
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
everybody knew them as Jihad. But like, so even in America, no, everywhere they were known as Jihad because they were hard, you know. Because I'm a metalhead myself, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so you know, and
But
I
they
just
had to
thought,
change their name
yeah,
because of the
Pacify,
wow.
that was it. They had to be called Pacify. I think they decided to do that, and
Mhm.
it was sad. It was like, what? It's like because of that, you know, the period of with 9/11 and stuff, and of course, you guys have just had that, you know, the other week, the anniversary.
The celebration, yeah, it was not the
Yeah,
celebration, but the anniversary of 9/11. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and you know, I actually watched that. To be honest, I watched that live here in New Zealand.
yeah,
I was up at that
yeah,
time, and in the middle of the night, I was like, "What's going on, man?"
yeah,
And
bro.
I'm watching this live. I'm like, what is it?
Mhm.
I thought it was like a movie or something. I just switched on. It's like,
We
it was
thought
like,
it was
and
a movie, to be quite honest. Like the way we
yeah,
felt about it was like, nah, this isn't real. The first
yeah,
plane hit, we were like, okay,
yeah,
it's definitely it
yeah,
might have been the wrong trajectory. Something might have happened, would have been off and stuff like that. But when
yeah,
that second plane hit, it was like, oh yeah, this is all strategic. You know
yeah,
what I mean? They knew exactly what they were doing. It was crazy.
yeah,
It was insane.
yeah. I mean, like I said, like I'm so far removed, right, from that situation. In the middle of
Hmm.
the night watching it, it was a shock to the system, man.
Yeah, it
And I
definitely
think,
is.
you know, it's like, where were you, right? It's that one moment, where were you? And that's where I was. My wife was
Yeah.
asleep. I was in the lounge just watching TV, and next thing, you know, it changes to this. It's live. We're coming live.
Hmm.
I'm like, what do you mean live at night?
Like, what is
You
this?
know?
What's going on?
Yeah,
Like, what? Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And I remember, like, just about a year later, I went to do my film course. So I studied film for 3 years,
Gotcha.
digital filmmaking, and two of my tutors were
Yeah.
American, and one of them,
Hmm.
Dr. Karen Love, was my favorite tutor of all time.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Like a second or first wave feminist, amazing lady. You know, nothing like what, you know, feminism today. She was just
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, 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 definitely.
And you know, and I just like soaked up everything she was saying. You know, I even laid her patio, right? That's how much I, you know, adored this lady. And she was just telling me about the whole situation and stuff, and like would really open my eyes to like foreign affairs and stuff like that. And so I
Hmm.
became like someone who just soaked up learning more, you know, learning more about the world from that as well. But I think when you know, we've got a couple of guys right now who are making it big in the metal scene overseas, and oh gosh, I can't remember. I always have trouble remembering their name. But the islands and New Zealand have a beautiful music talent base, as you mentioned. And it's like whenever somebody has a gathering, you either put the music on or you bring out the guitar,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and you all sing together. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah, bro.
that's sort
Yeah.
of like, what song shall we sing now, Auntie? Okay, play this one, son.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
nephew,
yeah.
let's do this.
And
All
that's
right.
the beautiful thing about the New
Yeah,
Zealand culture, man. Like,
yeah,
Pacific Islanders and but that culture in general, like that's just the way it was. I remember like they used to when going over there meeting Madeline's friend, they used to be up to like sometimes even 4 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, just playing, and you didn't realize it because you were just invested in it. You know
yeah,
what I mean? You wrapped up in your covers and stuff like that. You just listening and vibing with it and stuff like that. Sometimes I would record it, and I was like, "Yo, it was such a beautiful thing, man. Like definitely." And I think that's how most families should be.
yeah,
It's like you make a great situation out of the worst moments. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Sometimes, and it's how life should be in general. That's I guess that's how it is for us being collectors. Like when we experience certain things, this becomes
yeah,
our escapism. So, yeah, I got
yeah,
you.
yeah. I think, like you mentioned, you were over in, you know, over in Japan as well. How long were you over in Japan?
I was over in Japan. So basically, well, Japan was only something that I traveled. Um, basically back and forth. Like when, again, us doing engineering and stuff like that, we would go back and forth. It wasn't a place that I'd spent like an extensive amount of time. I think the longest I was over in Japan was like maybe 4 days at that
Okay.
time. In and out, like I said, we spent 4 days there once. And then actually when we traveled, the last time I was there, we were actually there for like maybe 3 days.
Okay.
And then we came back. But yeah, it wasn't too long. So I didn't really get a chance, like because we stayed in Osaka, and we did that. Then we would basically travel out, through different places. But yeah, man, I mean, I loved it. I love the culture. You know what I mean? Culturally, just it's embedded. I just like to experience different cultures. And
Yeah.
again, I grew up, exposed to just Japanese, and Asian culture. You know what I mean? I used
Yeah.
to watch, like, one of my favorite animated cartoons back in the day was Star Blazers.
All right.
You know what I mean? So I used to love that. I used
Yeah.
to love Battle of the Planets.
Yeah.
Old Gundams, basically, of course, Voltron and all that. Like everything was
Yeah.
just, I was so thrusted in that, that I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, that became my culture. Things that I love so much about it. Samurai culture, I'm so submersed in that as
Yeah,
well.
man.
So
Yeah.
yeah, all of that was just, it was just my thing, man. It was definitely
Yeah.
just my thing. All love, definitely.
Were you able to like get out there and buy some toys at that point, or
Yeah,
or
yeah,
did you?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So basically
Yeah.
I went, I forget the name of the actual place, to be quite honest, because it's been so long, because that's where I used to go. And I think right now, the place that I go through right now, I think it's called Medicom or something like that, Medicom Collecting, I believe.
Mm.
And through them, I believe so, but I think through them, because I haven't gone through them for so long, but I used to get like some of my Shogun Warriors, my Gundam figures,
Yeah.
most of the things that I couldn't actually find, of course, anywhere else, I would get there. So yeah, it was, toy hunting for me was just like major. It was
Yeah.
always a major thing, where I went. And also comic collecting and stuff like that was just like a major thing for me, just to make sure I could find some of the stuff that I was looking for. I just wanted to make sure, like, if I wanted it, I was destined to find it. I was going to make sure I
Yeah.
found it.
Now, this the same thing. Like you're an Aussie. Were you able to hunt down stuff that you're missing out of your set? Because a
Well,
lot of
I mean,
times,
over in
yeah.
Australia, it was just more so
Mm.
collecting comics. So I
Right.
remember I used to go to King's Comics off of in George. It was actually off of George Street in the city itself.
Mm.
So King's Comic was like a major spot that I would actually go to collect my stuff. But then after that, before King's, there was this, I used to live out west,
Mm.
in Australia. I used to actually go to like a shopping plaza, and around there was another comic shop that I used to
Yeah.
go to, which I loved, so much. So yeah, man, it was, I
Yeah.
always made sure that where I was connected to something that I love. So yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the whole comic book stores. Like a lot of people outside don't understand what that's like. It's not like just a regular store. You're
Hmm.
not just going in and buying your stuff and leaving. You're there. You're talking to other people, and you're talking to other collectors. You're talking to other fans, and you're like swapping stories, and who's your favorite. It's more like a culture of its own, and I think a lot of time people don't understand it. Did you gravitate to that because you wanted to actually mix and mingle, or just to buy stuff? What did you, or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both, but I think it's just because, again, I'm such a geek. You know what I mean? That's just who I am.
Yeah.
Like, I just love the art of collecting things that I love, things that I've connected to since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's always been, for me, I've always been very, very submersed in it.
Mm.
Um, to the point that it kept me grounded. My
Mm.
life was always grounded in that. That was always a space that I
Yeah.
existed in. So it was good, but a lot of it was just to have that connective tissue to other people, and people that
Yeah.
was just as open-minded as I was when it came
Yeah.
to the things that we explore and love about collecting figures and toys. And
Mm.
I don't, sometimes when like people say, you collecting these toys or these acts, I'm like, look, to me, it's works of art. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There are pieces that
Yeah.
an artist took their time to
Yeah.
create. you know, it gives us some, you know, self-fulfillment.
Yeah.
It gives us a certain level of joy, but I'm paying homage to artists and people that I love that, you know, have pieces that, you know, again, I've been able to connect to. So yeah, definitely, man.
Like, I mean, you know, I was thinking of the whole, you know, people talk about how people question your, you know, what are you into, you know, you
Yeah,
show up
yeah,
at a store and they go, "Oh, now you can't do that." I remember like going from Whangarei, and after like maybe 8 years of not being into comics because I lost
yeah,
my collection. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
was like, so, you know, and so then I started up again when we moved down to Invercargill, which is like, we're in Northland, Southland, which is, you know, the top for people watching, it's the opposite of where we are. It's the
yeah, yeah,
bottom of New Zealand,
yeah, yeah,
and the environment's totally different. So I realized there's a store there, so I walk into the comic store. It's probably one of the largest I've been in New Zealand. And you know, I'm talking, I want this, and the guy's, oh, where you from? Like, so much, and I'm like, what you into? It's like this. And go, well, and he's questioning, right?
mm-hmm,
Making sure, because I'm going to be like, it's a culture, right? You're coming
mm-hmm.
into a friendship with these people because you're an outsider. And how do you know, and plus I look like an outsider, right?
Yeah,
Especially if I'm in Invercargill, right? So it's kind of like, so I'm talking to these guys, and within like 10, 20 minutes, half an hour, I'm friends with them
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that quickly.
Because they're connecting to you because they know
Yeah,
you know, again,
yeah. I'm
I think
talking about
it's
things. Yeah,
yeah, because the thing is, bro, like it is for us, you know, not, I don't want to call it a sacred society, but
yeah,
it's a community where,
yeah,
you know, once we welcome you in, you're in, you know
yeah,
what I mean? And, you know, everybody's welcome to have that space as
yeah.
long as we know that you take it serious and no one's being
That's it.
judgmental. You know what
That's
I
it.
mean? You're not
Yeah.
judging a person for their love of what they collect or what they have, you know? So, yeah.
Hey, Rance. Yeah, and that's something people don't understand out on the outside.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Oh, why? You know, why is it such a tight thing? You know, and it's like, well,
Mhm.
because when we were growing up, like we said, like it was hard to make friends outside of yeah,
Yeah.
our love. If
Yeah.
you were a comic, you're a friggin' nerd. You know, if you're a comic fan, you're a nerd, and
Yeah.
so you're ostracized.
Yeah.
You're bullied.
Mhm.
You're like that. And so when you go into something as sacred as like for us was sacred as a comic shop, you know, it's like our
Okay.
temple, right? Because it's like we're surrounded by our mythologies and stuff. And so when you're welcomed in, and when you know you get challenged, right? What are you into? You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
are you just a poser? Because, and this is what people
Yep.
don't realize.
That's
You get
yeah.
tested. Are you a
Yeah.
poser? Are you wearing the t-shirts? Like something that's happened yesterday to me, right? I was wearing a Megadeth t-shirt because
Mhm.
I'm a fan of 35 years of Megadeth, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, I had them on patches. I had badges, the whole works when I was a kid. Last year I bought a double album, and then last year, because I bought the double album was coming out, I started buying the t-shirts again because I've always been wearing, like, for the last. I'm not in my community. I'm not in my city. I'm known as a comic guy
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, 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 yeah.
I used to have a comic shop. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
used to
yeah,
wear
yeah.
everything had to do with pop culture with me.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah,
last year I just
definitely.
went, you know, I'm gonna buy this double album because I want to show that I'm actually, I miss this part of myself, you know, the
That's
metal.
who you are.
And
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and so I also then went and bought a bass guitar again after friggin' 30 years, you know. I'm gonna play
Yeah.
bass now,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And then yesterday we were at our version of Walmart, right? There was a Metallica t-shirt,
Mhm.
and on it was just drums, and like a Kmart sort of situation, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's probably, yeah, it was more like a Kmart. And I'm with my nephew, and we're walking. He's, you know, he's 12, 13, and I'm like walking past this. I'm going, oh, let's see if there's a Megadeth one.
Yeah, yeah,
Nope.
yeah, yeah.
And then I realized something. This is a trend thing now, right? You could, and this has been going for a little while, but like just by wearing a Metallica t-shirt, you're just being trendy. You're not into the
Yeah,
music.
yeah,
You're not into
yeah.
that. And this is why when you go into a comic shop, people, you know, who are there playing games and stuff, they go, right. So which comic you into then?
Yeah.
What artist you like?
Mhm.
If you don't know, they know straight away you're a poser.
They
You
know
know,
that
oh
basically that's just the way it is, bro.
yeah,
Like, I yeah. It is, bro. And the thing is, it's like you're. It's not that you would shun anyone away,
No,
but at the
no,
same time, it's just like you want to make sure that the person has that level of appreciation. You know what I mean?
yeah,
For
yeah,
I mean, and that's just basically how it is. I'm real sensitive to that when it comes even to the community, bro. Like, what are
yeah,
you doing it for? Are you doing it
yeah,
to buy and sell? Or are
yeah,
you doing it because these things you really, really love? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Is it becoming, are you making this a business? Or are you
mm,
doing it because you're just expansive on your hobby itself, and you want to basically share, your
yeah,
intellect or your ideas with other individuals who are like-minded. You feel?
mm,
So like that's
mm,
that. Yeah, bro. It's I get that. I get
yeah.
that. I definitely get that. I get it.
And I think it is gatekeeping. It's gatekeeping because it's your friendship that you're protecting.
Mm-hmm.
It's your, because you don't want to bring in anybody who's, that might like cause problems later on. And we see that now, right? In a lot of fandoms, it's because there was no gatekeeping, because you weren't allowed to challenge. Like I
Yep.
was, it was like me, it was like, okay, so what was the last comic you bought? You know, why did you
Mm-hmm.
buy it? What sort of stories you like? And
Mm-hmm.
that that got me when that got me into like hard collecting again. It
Yeah.
allowed me to go, okay, what's out there now? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm reading this thing. Okay,
Yeah.
so what game? Oh, you're into Risk? Oh man, dude, there's Space Risk now. Like, really?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, and then like the other year, my brother bought me Marvel Risk, the
Mm-hmm.
universe, Marvel Universe Risk, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, it's like it's. I think if the other side of the coin is that the posing side is like they get to help you, because if you don't know where you're at and find what you like, you can also be helped in that community.
Yeah.
If you're coming in with not knowing knowledge, oh, look, I don't know anything about this. I saw something and I really liked it. I kind of piqued my interest. Is there anything else? And then there'll be 5, 6 different people with that knowledge to let you know, because they all they've all experienced it. We've all experienced being a poser, coming and
Yeah.
going, not knowing, you know, I don't know if I want to be part of this, and I think it's all right to be questioned. And I think people are so
Yeah.
worried about being questioned and challenged on things
Mm-hmm.
because, oh, why are you challenging me? It's like, well, there's two sides. We want to protect what we have. Plus,
Yeah.
we'd also like to help you,
Yeah.
help you kind of like mix into what we're doing
Balance
and
out and really
realize,
understand. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely,
kind of
man.
weigh out whether you are part of this. Maybe you like something else,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like I don't get D&D, right? I can't sit down there and do that, but I'm into comics, so I'll just
Yeah.
read and buy it and read, and that's my imagination going. And that's what, like, like if you go in and you find that one of the guys is into D&D and they do things at home, and next
Yeah.
thing you know, you can join their group, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
such an amazing sort of. I think fandom has such amazing. Um, I think what is it? Camaraderie, friendship, brotherhood,
Camaraderie, friendship,
sisterhood.
connection, and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
you. The thing is, I've met so many people, once I got thrusted into this community, once I got thrusted into this, because again, this is another form of creating for us. I mean, like, Renz Talentino, he's out there, a really good friend of mine now,
Mm,
who is an amazing artist. He's
mm.
phenomenal. Probably, one of the greatest artists right now of his
Oh
time.
wow.
You know what I mean? Like literally some of the things that he does and
Mm,
and in a short amount of time is with
yeah.
brilliance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's created some amazing pieces, for me,
Mm,
and for other people.
yeah.
And I think he's been able to basically network,
Mm,
through with so many individuals. He's become now a known figure, a known, space in this community. And I think that basically one of the reasons why he's come here, because, he's wanted to really expand. He started collecting, but he's
yeah.
also an incredible artist.
Right.
There's so many individuals out there that, we've been you got to think about it. Like for us
Mm,
outside of this community, I know for me, I can't have these conversations with a lot of people. Even with some of the friends that I have, like even though they're comic book collectors, they love, but I can't talk to them about collecting figures. I can't talk to them about, you know, the other side of it, or just this community, because they're, you know, again, life takes over, and sometimes they're not as serious as I am in this space. You know what I mean? So that's another part of it as well. You know what I mean? So
like talking about the community, right? So the other week, there was like about 10 figures put up with no heads on our group. We've got like a 700 people on our group, New Zealand group. So I just said to him, like, oh, you know, hey, so what else you got? Show us, you know. And then he goes, I've got this, because we're private chatting, right? DMing each other. I said, okay, all right, looks cool. And we had to just, you know, so like, because I'm thinking about, like, you know, posing, because I get them so I can create my own character, right?
Yeah.
Mock it up and stuff. I want ones with red hair, and like we'll go from there and I'll get painted. But I have a friend who customize, so I'll get him to customize, right? But and then so I go, okay, name your price. And he goes, handy, including posts. I'm like, okay, that's around about maybe $80, maybe $75 US.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, so see, I have this, I buy bulk buy. I don't buy like single things. I only buy like single things if I'm at a store, right? So if I'm at a store, I'll buy a single thing.
You'll see something, you'll
right?
get, definitely.
But when I'm buying at auction and I'm buying from friends, I just buy whatever they have that I, you know, and I'll just go negotiate with the price. And sometimes I don't even bother negotiating. I just, because at the end of the day, if he's serious, he knows the value, and he's doing it because we're a community. And then I reached out to my other friend and go, dude, I just got all these, they arrived. And he goes, well, I need heads now. So my other friend puts up, okay, I got all these heads. Like, and I go, well, okay. All right. He goes, I don't want to sell them or anything. How about we swap? You know, you tell me what figures you don't want and what figures you want to keep. And I go, okay, sweet. I'll send all your heads over, right? Because he's got photos of them. And send all your heads over. I'll try them out, and then I'll put back the post, show you what I want to keep, and then ones I don't want to keep, I'll send them to you with the heads, and you give me a price. And like when you think about it, each of these ones are like $50 New Zealand, right? This is a without the head, of course, but this is a Wonder Woman metal, heavy, death metal, whatever it was. So, you know, these are, you know, costly, but I got 24 for $100, right? And, you know, I've got stuff like, I got wrestling ones, I got Eternals, I've got, you know,
She-Hulk,
because the guy who got these, and he paid the top dollar for them, right? He got them for the heads, so he could customize.
So he can
his own figures, and I've seen them, and they look amazing.
So all he wanted was the heads from. Gotcha.
Yeah, because he's got his own thing he's going on, and like because he wants to set up his characters his way. Because and I've seen them; they look amazing. But I'm not a customizer. Like I said, I just don't do that, and I appreciate the toy community that does that. I really do. I'm like a guy who watches cosplay and goes, you know, look at you just did some amazing stuff.
Like you did that. Like you really, it's incredible. Like it's definitely incredible to watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, I told Toy, I was like, you know, every now and then I want to, you know, one of these days I'm going to actually cosplay as something that I love. It's just a matter of me picking something that I can really, really connect to. But I told her I'm definitely going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what got me to do like Manji. I did my own cosplay because as a full-on cosplayer, sewed it myself. You know, even because I walk with a cane, so I even I created a foam blade to go into my cane, so I could walk around with the blade.
Manji.
You know,
that's nice.
For those of you guys who haven't watched Blade of the Immortal, Manji is the main character, and his name is Savastika, right? Which is the backwards, which the Nazis bastardized, right? Of our culture and also Japanese culture, Asian culture, I should say. And so I had that on my back, because I was going to a because I was a co-director of a anime and K-pop festival last year.
Gotcha.
With thousands of people there, and I was like, I was one of the guys who was looking after the volunteers and actually looking at the arts and setting up the more other side of it, not the merchandising side of it, so the community side of it. And then had to go up there and do the cosplay with my other other friend who was actually cosplaying as a character from a card game, New Zealand made card game called Flesh and Blood, right? And so she, because of her inspiring me, because she also also cosplays as my character, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I said, if we're doing this and I'm doing this for these, I'm getting paid to do this job, I want to put my 100% in. So I borrowed my sister's sewing machine. I sat down, bought, it cost me about $300 all up to make it.
Yeah.
Plus I had to buy the jandals. Cost me $50, I think, was just for the jandals. So it looks the part. I made underwear, I made Japanese
literally
underwear.
made it, yeah.
Like, cotton underwear. So I could, onto my boxes, because I watched like people make it online on YouTube.
Yeah.
They had the plans out there, and I have such gratitude towards podcasters, right? I have such gratitude towards them. I think of people look at YouTubers, they have disdain for them. I have no disdain for it. I love them. I appreciate them. I appreciate it because you know why? We didn't have the damn things like this, man.
That's what I try to get people to understand. We didn't have this space, man.
Yeah,
we definitely didn't.
And we didn't have people telling us about all these amazing toys coming out, like yourself. We didn't have people passionate about it. We didn't have people out there telling us about like observations, talking deeply about what we love. Making us think differently from different viewpoints. And it's like being in a freaking comic shop with the elder. The dude who knows the history, and now this is like our community online where I can
definitely
go. Like yesterday, I was listening to something. I think I was watching something, and I thought, okay, you know what? Souls of Black, Testament. I want, what was the baseline like? So I jump on YouTube, base cover tab,
and you found it.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I didn't realize how good the bass player on Testament was.
Yeah.
He's not doing. He's like. I'm like, dude, he's like jazz musician on a metal. And
you find exactly what you're looking for, man. Definitely.
Yeah, man. And we didn't have that. We had to go hunt down the magazine that might have it.
But now it's just basically you get online, you can just find it in a tutorial. They'll walk you through it. So yeah.
Now, just before I posted, like if it wasn't, Ren's going there, if it wasn't, you wouldn't have met so many friends. Tell us a little bit about the community that you've created around, 1/6 Scale Man.
Well, so like I said, my objective with this community was to create a safe space, plain and simple. A safe place where we could talk about the art of collecting, some of the pieces that we have, show off some of our figure photography, just, fellowship around the things that are coming, just to have chats with, collectors all over, about these things. That was just, the space that we wanted to kind of exist in. And, again, it's been trivial because, like I said, some relationships have been formed, a lot of relationships have been lost, but through it, it's like I still maintain and try to maintain that balance of just a safe space where people can come in and just fellowship about what it is we do and what we love, and the different IPs that are out there, talking to some of the different manufacturers, some of the different artists. That's pretty much the construction, that's the blueprint around what I've tried to create, and wanted to sustain here in this community. So I live by that. Like I continue to do that.
Yeah. And I think the wonderful thing is when you do that, you also see like you said, like there's other people out there doing stuff, but not only that, you're connecting people to those people,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is what this is what Ren was saying. It's like you're connecting people to people.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think because the problem now we have is because we're become so solitude and worried about what everybody else is going to do to us, or take what we say and twist it. We so become so individual because we're trying to protect ourselves. But
Yep.
when
Mm-hmm.
when we have this true communities, and people connecting us to each other, we're able to get back to that social connection that we used to have in the
Yep.
90s and in 2000s and the 80s,
Yep.
where you
Yep.
could just, if you said something, it's okay, whatever, man, and carry on.
Yep.
Now it's
Yep.
like if you say something and they just dogpile you and stuff, because they don't get it. They don't get
Mm-hmm.
they don't understand why you're saying it, or they have to make you explain yourself, walk over freaking
Yeah.
eggshells. It feels
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I remember, like, the reason our community, like this group that we created, now we've got 777 members within the last 5 years. And this is New Zealand. It's a very small place, right? It's only about 5 million people. It's not a huge place. It's not like America. You get thousands of people in the group.
Mm-hmm.
But, a friend of mine reached out to me and said, hey, listen, I'm not liking this group. It's like there's too many, people just not appreciating what's going on. And they're
Complaining and
complaining, and they're not here. And said, like, I'm looking into said this. And I said, yeah, man, I feel you.
Mm-hmm.
I pull myself
Yeah.
out of the group. I pull myself out of another group, and I'm like, this is the group I
Yeah.
want to belong to. And
Yeah.
then now, we sort of like we're able to go, uh, you know, uh, test each other, right? Test people coming in.
Mm-hmm.
The other
Mm-hmm.
thing is because that you can't let everybody come in, because then it becomes that. But the other thing is there is the other side of the community, which is like if somebody ripped off a kid,
Yeah.
right? And because it was done on our thing without somewhere, and we didn't realize, that the person who bought it off him didn't realize that guy had been blacklisted, right?
Yeah. Didn't
And we
know it.
might, and so he went and spent and then a couple of them, I wasn't one of them, because I was like, okay, I'm not, I find it hard to let go of my figures, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
don't sell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give away, and it's like I felt, there's other people doing it. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll get another chance to do it some other time. I do it differently, right? I have my own ways of doing things, and so I don't like people pushing me to do stuff that I don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing was that the community, there was a bunch of people that got around and said, "Hey, we'll look after your kid,"
Yeah.
because his mum came on and said, "Hey, this is things, mum. He got ripped up by this," and then we said, "Hey, look, he was one of the guys that were blacklisted, and we 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 will put up, And anyway, so a whole bunch of guys got around and gave him a whole bunch of toys.
Nice.
That
Nice.
was that. And whereas I'm like, that's not me. I'm like, if I see a kid on the street with no toys and they're playing up, I'll go, here, kid. Because
There
I've
you
always
go.
got toys in my bag. That's
Yeah.
how
There
I
you go.
work.
Yeah.
And because I'm that guy who goes, I wish I had toys when I was like bored
When you
with my
that's what I'm
parents.
saying, like when you were young, like it's
Yeah.
certain things that we weren't fortunate enough to have when we were young, and now that we're older, we're fortunate enough to have these things, to very, to really respect, what it is, we're, getting our, things that we couldn't have before. We know what it's like not to have. We know what it feels like not
100%.
to
100%.
have things that we've wanted for so long, but
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
opportunities were missed, and
Yeah.
now we're in a space to whereas we can appreciate that and
Yeah.
also understand what it is for a kid who didn't have it
Yeah.
before. Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely, man.
Yeah, man. Like you didn't have the money, right? When you grew up,
Yeah.
you wanted something like that, and you didn't have the
Mm-hmm.
money to buy that Wolverine, or you
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the money to buy the Transformer that was the hottest toy out there at that time. And because maybe in the family you couldn't afford that, because parents had to raise other kids. You're not the only one. And I think when you get to our age, you're like, okay, we got money, right, that we can
Mm-hmm.
spend and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and also, like, getting back to creating and stuff, we're able to create our own stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
our own things ourselves, and then put that out there. Now, that brings me to Kickstarter and stuff, like, you know, crowdfunding and go fund my comics, right? So I've got Luke on next week, right? Talking about that site, Fund My Comics.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that has made something amazing for creatives.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because you get
Now,
people behind what it is, like, especially if you have an idea.
yeah,
And people gain an interest in that idea. It's also drawing attention, and you know, it creates a space where you can even network with other individuals. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, bro. Definitely.
Now, toys. Have you, with crowdfunding, have you been able to find, you know, back something or see something amazing or connect with someone
I've
who is
backed it.
actually doing something?
Yeah, I've backed a few. Like, it was a friend of mine who basically, you know, he created his, you know, comic.
Yeah,
You know, basically had a comic run that he's been trying to get off the ground.
yeah,
You know, and I've actually helped crowdfund that. You know, again, you know, like HasLab has been doing it for so many years, but then, like I
yeah,
said, they're known for it, but
mm,
I also want to step away and just kind of get more, you know, connected with those who are just getting off the ground and are trying
yeah,
to do things, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So I've, you know, crowdfunded like a few toy creators. You know, I've
yeah,
crowdfunded like mainly the people that I've actually connected with are those who've created comics.
yeah,
Because I know that, like I said, as publishers, as writers, they're
yeah,
trying to get their things off the ground. And I'm like, yeah, that it deserves a space, because especially,
yeah,
like I said, I mean, I think, you know, just the art form itself is starving for something new.
yeah,
And you know, to be able to kind of support those who want that, you know what I mean? That's why I support people like Renz when it comes to his art, because
yeah,
again, you know, I know like he's a force to be reckoned with in this community when it comes to his art. So I try to support him as much as I can, you know, talk about his work on the show.
yeah,
You know, and through that he's been able to connect with other people and do things and
yeah,
like that for other people. I think that we have to pay it forward, man. Like, if we
yeah,
don't, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Especially if we have a space, I think that we have
yeah,
to really, really, really pay it forward, do as
yeah,
much as we can to pay it forward. And not enough
yeah.
people do that, man. So we have to be responsible for that. We have to do more of it, you know?
I think I think people like in our community, uh, the toys and the pop culture community are the most selfless people,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? When you think about it, uh, because I think it's supportive and, you know, and sometimes it can get taken advantage of, but we are those people. Like, I mean, like when we did this, like in August, right? I think it was August or July. We put
Hmm.
this out as a Kickstarter, you know, and we're sorting all the artwork now. We'll be out in February to everybody who supported us, and it, you know, reached a goal and some. And part of the thing was that, you know, I wanted to get this done as a toy, as a box set, like this Incredible chibi, right? Set up as a box, you know, like something like this, right? So it'd be out there looking like that, or in a little box like this, and we could set it up as a toy out there.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But in time, right? So it'd be out there like this, nice little package, and but it was like I knew it wasn't going to happen first round, you know, because the cost of actually doing something like that is 5K.
Cost of manufacturing and
Yeah, 5K
and
US, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
product, yeah,
just
definitely,
yeah,
man.
just for 100 figures, it's 5K, and you're like,
Production is always tough, bro.
yeah. So I'm like, you know, we'll put it off, and we'll keep offering it. Maybe it'll hit one day, but like we've got 5 more issues to put out for Incredi-Girl, right?
Hmm.
Uh, one thing I do love about the toy scene and the whole crowdfunding scene
Hmm.
is that you have people who would never have it done
Yeah,
because of crowdfunding are able to get it done or get
yeah,
people to support them.
yeah,
And the beauty and the joy you see of having your own thing done is
yeah,
out there
yeah,
and people are
yeah.
supportive of that. It brings so much joy. You know,
Hmm.
that you know, it's like hunting that one toy that you've
Yeah.
been wanting for so long, and then somebody has it, you know, and
Hmm.
you get it now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like that. And I think, you know, it's hard for some people to understand what that's like.
Hmm.
Has, you know, when you're, you know, is there one toy that you're still hunting? right? That you missed out on as a kid, or you know.
You know what? Honestly, I can say that I've been fortunate enough not to run into that situation because everything that I've wanted, I've been able to find.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
even if it was with patience, I was able to get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would be patient and it would come around. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, yes, I have it now.
Yeah.
What I've wanted, I've been able to really get. So I think in that space, I'm extremely fortunate, whereas there are some people who aren't as fortunate as I am to find certain things. I think with a bit of digging and,
Yeah.
just finding reasonable prices for certain things, I've been
Yeah.
fortunate enough to find it. Or I've been smart enough to know that when it comes out, get it right then and there. I've been
Yeah.
doing that pretty much all through life. If it's
Yeah.
there, get it. Don't second guess it, especially if you see it and it's unique. Get it,
Yeah.
pick it up. You never know what it's going to be like in the future. And I've run into that several times. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting it now. Let me just knock
Yeah.
it out. And I don't have to worry about it down the line. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite toys was a Tommytron. This is not like the Tron part,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
movie. So
Yeah.
this is a Shark Attack one. So this is different. So I was
Yeah,
able
yeah.
to get this, but I'm still after that one, the Tommytron.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's based, it's one of the early home-based, in package video game things where
yeah,
you
yeah.
basically move it around like that, has noise, sound,
And
and
you just
everything,
look
and you
at
look
yeah,
through it.
yeah, definitely.
And do you remember this? Did you have one? Or
No, I never
yeah,
had one. I never had one. Honestly, I can say I never had one.
I got gifted it, and I took it to school one day and got stolen out of my bag.
Oh,
And I think that was the last time I took anything to school that
yeah.
I loved.
See,
And
yeah.
I must have had it for about a couple of months. That was it. And
Mm-hmm.
dude, I still hurt to this day because of having lost that. And so I've been hunting that down. That's my Holy Grail, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But the problem is, while I'm trying to get to my Holy Grail, I'm spending money on stuff like this.
That's the thing is, bro, because when you're hunting for certain
on the
things,
way,
yeah, that journey on the way, you'll start finding other things. It's like, oh, I need that. I want that. I need that. I want that. You know what I mean? And that's just how it is, bro. For us collectors, it's a gift and it's a curse. It's a gift to us because we enjoy it, but it's a curse because along the way of trying to find the ultimate grail, everything else is presenting itself as well, man.
It's getting in the way to get my thing. This thing shows up. Somebody's selling this online. I'm like, this is cool. I'll get this, but
I'll
and
get
then
it.
I forgot that I'm supposed to get my Tommytron.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh, okay. There's the next Batman came out. Oh, dang it! No.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those. I'm like one of those guys who don't buy like top tier figures, right? I buy what's available and what I can afford, and I bulk buy at auction. So, there'll be probably one or two things in that little bulk buy that I want, and then I'll probably swap it or sell it to my friends for whatever else I don't want. And so they'll end up, the Batman will end up on there, and the others will be in the other box ready to go, pass on and so on, or hand over to my nephew or, so on, whoever else. But what is it like, for someone who's not in your scene, like in the high-end collecting scene? Tell us about that high-end collecting scene,
High-end collecting, what do you mean as far as
like the more expensive stuff? Like anything for me, high-end collecting is anything over $100.
Oh yeah. That's bro. This literally is a dangerous space, and it's careful planning. If you can afford to get on a payment plan for things that you want, I would tell people to do that rather than buying it straight out, because then you're planning over time. You're paying for it over time. You know what I mean? You have time to pay it off. You secure the bag better that way, because again, you're not just throwing all your eggs in one, basket. But yeah, I think, for that, you have to really prepare, bro, because again, once I found out how much these figures cost, when I started collecting, like over $200, originally when Hot Toys started, they were under 200, but then they expanded, and then we started seeing figures like, close to $300, like, and it was like, whoa, this is, but again, it's just, it's careful planning, piece by piece. They don't drop them like with these particular figures. Again, it's pre-ordering. You pre-order, you have to wait like maybe a year and a half before it drops. So again, you have time to plan, but then sometimes you can't overstretch yourself and get too many pre-orders, because sometimes a figure get delayed and then another one is on time, but then they're getting meshed together because of the date. And it's like, now I have to get both. You know what I mean? Like I have to. So it is tough, but you're paying for art. At the end of the day, you are definitely paying for art, bro.
Yeah.
That's the space that I exist in. You are paying for art and you're appreciating it. So that's how I see it.
And that's what people don't understand. All these toys were doodles by an artist, right? Like all these comic books, because I'm a writer, right? All these comic books writers was like a thought that they spent invested time and energy into developing, and now it's here. And then from that toy now, or for that story now, we're moving on to, like, from that story moving into maybe posters, but now we're moving into toys. We're moving to garments. We're getting t-shirt designs, like, I'm wearing a Deadpool hoodie, and then you got to, and this is like, you look at how Deadpool appeared in like 99, I think it was 98, right? New Mutants 98, and I had, I had that book on that time. It's one of the ones I lost in the fire, right? Because when the Holy Grail of, I mean, I would say like the best age of modern Marvel was about 88, 95, that period, sort of,
around the 80s, definitely between like 87, 88, to about 95, like 90. Because then you had, like, I mean, for me, I mean, X-Men, people will always know that X-Men is my first love. You had Executioner's Song, basically that was one of my favorite runs. You had the whole House of M, Apocalypse, Age of Apocalypse.
You had
what I mean?
Amazing stories.
Amazing stories, that were basically told, that were great runs. That now, like, look, the evolution of writers and the writing, and we welcome that. But at the same time, it's just like, just the actual connection, I think, because I think now with runs, it gets so it gets so saturated, because then you have one good run, but then you have the spinoffs from those runs, and it's like, yo, I can't keep up half the time. So it's I get it, man.
So I bought this just so I could have a CGC. That's all, right? And this is like
I have that book. I have that book.
Awesome. So I mean, this is before my time, right? Like, I had some amazing mutants. That's all I used to love at that one point. I was into like mutants or 2000 AD Judge Dredd, right?
Yeah.
So, this came on offer, and I got it because I CGC, and then I bought my friend, right, who's an artist. His first love is Conan, and I'm a Conan fan, like hardcore Conan fan as well. But so this is my friend's artwork. This is Shane Neville, right?
Nice.
And he's just put out a couple comics. He's got a second issue coming out soon, but he did it himself, right? The comics.
That's incredible.
Unlike me, I went to Kickstarter, and I've got a publisher and stuff, indie publisher, but he did it himself through our New Zealand community, and we'll be talking about that next month in October when we focus on New Zealand. But I went and bought him King Conan number one, because I was like, and this is the thing about that real rich friendship that you create out of art, these artists and friendships. I went, I want to buy that for you just so you could have a CGC, but also it's Conan.
Yeah.
I could keep it for myself because I love Conan as well. I used to hunt down the novellas, right? That's how everywhere I would go, I would hunt them down at thrift shops, for hours looking through, I must have spent a couple years and just, all looking for Conan books. but he's a Conan fan, so
Mhm.
I'm going to stick with my X-Man, and I want to give him as a gift for that, and because he's such a great guy, you know, he's my best friend, and I think there is this wonderful things that people don't understand, that when a creator is like a writer who's not an artist joins with an
Mhm.
artist,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
they bring that character to life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is Shane's work here. This is one of our older, you know, older
Nice.
versions of a costume, you
Yeah.
know, and you get to see something that was in your head developed.
Translated and yeah.
Yeah, and it's a magic. It's like you're connecting to you know, you're connecting to God
Mhm.
in a
Mhm.
weird way. Like, it's not
Mhm.
like, because you're the guy who's thinking, right? You're the priest going blah blah blah, and then suddenly you connect,
Mhm.
and then you get some magical thing happen like that. Now it's a character's, you know, alive,
Yeah.
and then you can go to the
Phenomenal.
next stages and put on t-shirts and all that.
Yeah.
But I find it really strange how artists are being underappreciated.
Yeah.
You know, the whole AI thing, for me,
Yeah,
uh,
that's a no-no because again,
yeah,
bro, my feelings on that is so strong because again, you know, you're also taking an artist's interpretation
yeah,
and you're putting it into AI and it's
mm,
kicking out that artist interpretation.
mm,
You know what I mean? Through different
mm,
variations, but
yeah,
it's still an artist's interpretation. It's from an artist who, from
yeah,
their mind, their in, you know, again, imagination they've created, but then you're taking that mock-up and, you know, putting into or feeding it into like a digital processor, you know, that's recreating it, and it's not AI. Again,
mm,
I understand evolution, but that's
yeah,
not the evolution that we were talking about. You know what I
no,
mean? Evolution of man is us being able to push past, you know, to even, you know, we take, you know, each part of our creative cortex,
mm,
everything that's there, we're pushing ourselves to a certain limit where we're able to
yeah,
evolve. Leave that
yeah,
us up to us. Don't force
right,
it with, you know, artificial intelligence. And you're
yeah,
basically, because you're number one, you're taking that creative space away from an
mm,
artist. You're, you know, people are losing jobs from it. It's like,
yeah,
come on, nah, no, no.
yeah,
That's a lot of artists, even like a lot of comic creators are talking about that because they're even talking about creating entire books using a. I'm like, no, hell no,
they have.
no.
It's on
Yep,
Kickstarter, and
yep, yep. Nope.
I'm like, dude,
Mm-mm.
you know, do you know how long it took me to get to the stage?
Yeah,
Right? You
yeah,
know, to like, just like, I mean, I created her for my niece. She was four years old at the time.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, between her, you know, her and her dad, I said to her like, hey, I'm thinking, because I just done my crime comic book, and I just said to her, I was at her place for Christmas. This is in
Mm-hmm.
2007. I said, you know, it'd be cool to do something as a superhero comic. So I said to Ella, if you had a superhero, what would you call her? She goes, Incredible Girl.
Mm-hmm.
I went, oh, okay. And then my brother-in-law goes, you know, dude, why don't you cut it down to Incredi-Girl? Because like Incredible Girl is kind of taken because of the
Yeah,
Incredibles.
yeah,
Because she had
yeah,
just seen it, right? And
yeah.
she's all up in that. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's
There
where
you
the name
go.
comes from,
There you go.
right? And
There
then
you
I go,
go.
okay, so logo, colors, schemes, what shall I do? So it's taken me since 2007 to now, was that 11 years?
Mm-hmm.
Was it 15 odd years, something like that, 16 years, to actually have her in the right costume tone, you know, because she wears blue and red, and there's a white, and the symbol took me
Mm-hmm.
decades to come up to make this right symbol, right? The backwards IG, right? You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that it stands out. And then I had someone go, why is the G backwards? I'm like, what do you mean? Why is it
Yeah,
backwards?
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
I had a triangle at one point, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All these ideas, and you talk about, you know, you know, how long it takes to do something. Writing the story the right way. I actually then
Mhm.
went when last year, 2 years ago, we got another artist to work on it because I was doing it kind of came out like a webcomic type thing, cartoony, didn't like it. So this was the first version, right? So this is what it looked like first.
Yeah.
Now it looks nothing like that.
Yeah.
Right now it's a fully conceptualized, like you could basically, have it, not as, something looking like that in my comic book now, right?
Yeah.
Fully
Nice.
colored, not, it's a different artist style, but I mean, like, probably something more, something that looks more like that, so like art is really cool like that now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so it's taken me that long to go, I am happy with this. I'm
Yeah.
finally
But
happy
you've
with
worked hard to get
well,
to that point.
yeah,
Yeah.
15, 16 odd years. I am now happy to have this in the hands of anybody and be proud of it. And it's
Yeah.
taken that long. And I
Yeah.
think people don't realize that. The stresses, the time, the ups and downs of creating something, building the world, building the supporting cast, creating the ethos, creating the biography, origin. How did they become that? All this takes time. It's not just boom. And the problem here is with AI, and I've tried AI. I have. I've said, okay, let's put this my own chibi design. Let's see what it does. And I'm like, it looks gross, and it does all that because I don't want to talk about something I don't know a bit about,
Yeah.
And I did the same thing with my idea for a short story. So I went, okay, let's see what this is. And choose out, and I go, okay. I'm like, I'm not going to use that because it's not me anymore. I mean,
It's
sure,
not
it's taking
you.
my
You're
concept.
feeding it. You're feeding it to a
Yeah,
processor and getting the results. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And the thing is, like, I mean,
Sometimes it feels like it's cutting corners. Yeah, I got you.
that's it. And I feel like if I use that and I put that story out there, right, from the AI concept,
Yeah.
I will not be connected to it anymore. It's a weird thing, but that's me, right? I'm like, I've just taken that. Sure, it's got my little points and ideas and outline, but it won't be me anymore because me is when I am stressing over each freaking word that's on that bubble,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
it's in that, when I'm typing it up and then I go back and change it and I go back and add something else. That's me. So what AI does is takes me away from that.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no soul.
Exactly.
So when I tell my story, I've stressed over every little text in there, every little word, and my artist, when he comes and puts the artwork out, he has stressed over it as he designs the character to please me first.
Yeah. Yeah.
First to please himself, but more than himself to please me. When he sends me that work, he's expecting me to go, okay, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Like last week, I had I get 2 pages a week from my Spanish artist for another book we do called Robot Nation. It's an anthology type thing. So he sends me this page, right? And there's 2 panels on it, one huge one and one little one. And I go, I got to put the bubbles on. So I switch it. I turn it around. I copy, cut and paste, and I turn it around the other way because I don't want to ruin his art.
Yeah.
Because I put because the words have to come before the people, the person, but the space is given at the other side. So now I've got to turn around so I can use that space and the person's over there. So the words come first. And he goes, I love the fact that you actually treated the art with love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So there's me and him now connecting on a level about the fact that I changed his work, but he didn't mind it. He loved the fact that I did it because I respected not to destroy his artwork by putting bubbles all over his amazing work. And so because I come from the artist background, I understand how important it is as a writer because I let out my own books to not, and I think this is something that people don't understand, how the artists, when we create something like that, when someone creates a book like this, you're not thinking about what's going to, you just look at the cover and you're done. You're not thinking about all the little details at the back, right? That's happening. So you got here, you got Batman at the back here tied down. You just think it's a cool cover. But the artist, right, is thinking about all these little things here.
All the shading, the shadows, basically the
all
background, the atmosphere, what makes sense, aesthetics. Yeah, definitely.
And and he's spending hours on that, making sure it's
Mhm.
right. Now AI just goes, I want to take this, I want to take this, and a million other images out there, and I'm going to give you something. And
Yeah.
what you get is basically this,
Yeah.
right? This is what you get. You get nothing.
Yeah.
You get something that has no soul, no nothing in it, no
Mhm.
connection to the artist, but you've taken from the artist, and now you got that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why, like, you know, when I talk my friends, you know, I always talk about their artwork because he has taken ages to come up with the concept,
Mhm.
right? The
Mhm.
way, because he's come up with the way that he does the lines,
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
he does
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
lines,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
his, you know, his teacher told him, he said, like, are you going to do realism, or are you going to do something yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that put him
Gotcha.
on another trajectory.
Mm.
AI doesn't tell you that, right?
Mm-mm.
AI goes, what do you want next? And just spews it out. It doesn't give
Mhm.
you connection to it.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
I think in the sense, like, if you're, I don't know how it does it for toys with AI. I guess it's more like stealing the concept art, you know, that's out there.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I remember early on, everybody was saying, you know, watermark your work, watermark your work.
Yeah. Make
Now it
sure you
seems
do.
like
Yeah.
yeah, but now it seems like they can remove the watermark, you know, with
Mhm.
AI and stuff, and, you know, clean it up. You can just go to Photoshop and remove that person's uh, you know, signature and stuff of it. So it's, you know, it's when you see somebody's work get stolen like that. I've had my logo stolen, right? About
Yeah.
2000, 2007, I had my logo stolen, like for my t-shirt label. I had a streetwear label,
Yeah.
and you know, designed all the clothing and everything, and
Mhm.
went away to film school. Came back, it was being used on TV,
Mhm.
right?
Wow. Mhm.
And I was like, somebody said, because I had a hat on, and someone said, "Were you on that set? Were you part of that crew?" I was like, "What do you mean?" It's like, that logo. I was on a TV show with that on it, and I'm like,
Wow.
I spent freaking 3 months sitting in a business course, right? Or was it 6 months? Just coming up with it every day, working on this logo,
And they stole the
right?
idea. Yeah. They stole the
And they,
concept and made it their
yeah,
own. Yeah.
and they just
Mhm.
took it. And I'm like, I went to the IP, you know, IP place, and I went, hey man, intellectual property, you know, and what do I do? He said, well, you need 10 grand. I'm a shift freaking worker,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I'm getting paid something like about $15 an hour, you know,
Mhm.
and I'm going to try to fight this. And I'm talking about New Zealand 15. That's like $10 an hour,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, what do I do? I can't fight this. There's no money. I got no money. I'm like working hand to mouth, basically,
Mhm.
whatever, you know. And so I left it. And like, so I've got all the clothing with it. I've got the folder that's got the artwork on it. You know, I've got the you know, the label on it. So we're going to bring up one of my characters called Father Fate, right?
Mhm.
Who's
Mhm.
a African American man who comes and
Mhm.
lives in New Zealand with his grandma, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And you know, and he's going to be part of our great Alienated Alliance thing, and he's going to have that logo. And I'm waiting for the day when these guys who stole my stuff come and say, "Oh, you can't use it." I'm going, well, "Yeah, right." That's you know, I didn't fight you back then because I don't have the money. I'm not even going to fight you now. I'm just going to have you prove it.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
you prove it. Like I sat
Yeah.
there in 2002 for 3 to 6 months just designing the
Just
logo
creating it.
alone.
Yeah. Mhm.
You know, and then I went and designed all the clothing. I designed the shirts, I designed the jeans, you know, all the patterns and stuff. And here you could just come and take. And this is why I feel like why I'm so anti innocent to AI. I love the
Mhm.
concept of you know, technology and progress. Yeah, I'm cool with it because I'm a futurist, right? I write sci-fi stories and comics, but I've been through that, you know, 2 decades ago almost, right? And I know what it felt like to have that stolen, you
Mhm.
know, to have
Mhm.
something I created, to someone just go, I like it, you know, I want to put on a
Pluck it.
superhero
Yeah.
TV show,
Yeah.
you know, and now I'm going to put on my own comics, right, in the next couple of years, and like, let's see what happens then. And I think
Yeah.
people don't understand the pain that comes from artists having their work stolen, what it feels like for artists, you know.
Yeah. Especially if you put so much into it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other side of the coin is when you actually have people who are out there enjoying the merchandise, don't care, you know, and and they don't care about it, how the artist feels about it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and you know, it's like taking the original character and making it something into something else, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what it feels like. It's like you're taking something and you're bastardizing it. Excuse the language. That
Yeah.
you're just taking something that's not yours to take. But I mean, the other thing and the worst thing is when they make money off it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. True. True.
And I had, I was like, there was a video made on YouTube about it, and the guy was promoting the comic.
Yeah.
That was stolen art, AI comic book. He was promoting it. Oh, look at this one. I'm like, and I put it up on my Facebook to my friends, and I said, this is not me saying it, but check this. This is what they are doing now, right? And it's like if you care about your pop culture, if you care about your art form, you got to hear what the artists are saying about it.
Yeah.
You
got to give them credit. You got to definitely give them credit. Give credit where credit is due, man.
Now, we were talking about your Holy Grail. Sorry about the tangent there, but like I just think it's artists don't get enough credit. We saw what happened in the 90s, right? When the artists went left, with the image thing, revolt, and we're having the same now. Are you following the Fables thing with DC?
No, not right now. I mean, for me, like I said, I mean, I've even gone the route of, like I said, because I just finished, right now I've basically been following, everything that's going on with Batman. And also I just finished like I was so behind. I just basically finished Deceased, finally got through that, you know what I mean? Basically Metal, of course, because I thought that was incredible. It was a credible run. Right now I'm actually, I've moved on to, I mean, I'm Marvel to heart. Like basically right now I'm dealing with the Fall of X, basically the Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I'm reading that right now. But also a lot of indie books, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like a lot of indie runs and stuff like that. That's pretty much where I'm at. But no, I haven't. Not with the Fables, of course.
Yeah. So they set it around for about 2 years with Fables, like Bill Willingham. I love Fables. I have the first 6 issues of that, which is
yeah.
And I've read the entire books of it and everything. And I need to get the hardcovers, man, because it's one book, But the problem here is now that he had a falling out, and he wanted to put it because he just had enough, and he was going to put it out on like public domain. So you could basically create your own stories because this is how fed up Bill Willingham has been as a creator of Fables universe, right? And here's another thing. Talking about theft, Bill Willingham took that to TV, and they took that concept of Fables and made Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
They took his IP and they said, no, we don't want your stuff, and they created their own stuff around what
based off of his subject or based off of the narrative that he's created. I mean, that's, you know what, but that's even happened several times, because you got to remember, like, even
to me.
Exactly, because even remember with that happened even so.
You're talking about Babylon 5?
What'd you say?
Are you talking about Babylon 5? Think about Babylon 5.
No, not even with Babylon 5, but even like with IPs that have been given a name, they completely changed the narrative of Lucifer and Preacher, and that's why those haven't finished, because the writer, really was like, wait a minute, you've taken a concept, you've diverted from a story that was basically recreated, that I've created myself, and you've taken it in the direction that I didn't necessarily want to go. Right now, even one of the reasons why the second season of Sandman is taking so long is because studios are wanting to change the narrative, and He's like, nah, we're not doing that.
Yeah,
We're not
but
doing that.
he changed it himself at the start as well. That's why I
Yeah,
won't watch the Sandman.
yeah, yeah,
I won't have anything to do with Neil Gaiman. I've got freaking the absolute
yeah,
deathbed.
yeah,
This
yeah,
freaking huge book,
yeah, yeah,
$150
yeah.
hardcover, and I won't have anything to do with Neil Gaiman because of what he did with it. He changed death, right?
Yeah.
His friend, based on his
Yeah, but
freaking
I think,
friend. How could
I, yeah, but I even think that Neil Gaiman changed it because of
Mm,
what was to come. You know what I
yeah,
mean? What was basically to come. But I think
mm,
also Neil Gaiman. So with Neil, and I
mm,
mean, like again, I love his work. I do. I'm not gonna lie. I'm unapologetic. I love
yeah,
his work. I love him as a writer. But
yeah,
also, I understand that what he tries to do is mimic the times, but sometimes it can also be a setback
yeah,
because in my opinion, even though I
yeah,
love
yeah,
Neil, in my opinion, sometimes it can be a setback
yeah,
because you're catering to a demographic. You're catering to a narrative
mm,
rather than servicing the story.
yeah,
So sometimes that happens. I've seen it so many times. Not even
yeah,
with, I've seen it with Gaiman.
yeah,
I've seen it even with Chris Claremont. He's done it a few
yeah,
times as well. Yeah, what I mean, where you're serving a narrative rather than servicing the story. I've
yeah,
seen it with so many different writers, but at the
mm,
same time, I'm like, okay, it's their vision, so I give them a pass. But at the same time,
yeah,
I would have loved, in my mind, to see you service the story rather than
100%.
just the
Yeah,
narrative. So when they change it, sometimes it does go off rails, and then you're giving other people the opportunity to come in and completely pillage
yeah.
that and say, okay, since you're going
Once
this
you
route, this
start,
is where
right?
we're going to go. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it happens. It
yeah.
definitely
It's
happens.
like when you give an inch. Like I'm like at the point like I'm not going to give an inch.
Yeah,
Never
yeah,
going to give an inch on my characters. There's one
yeah,
book that's called The Circle, which is a crime drama. That's the only book you can do whatever you
yeah,
want with it.
yeah,
Anything else, don't you dare touch it. I own 100%
yeah.
of it all.
But that's the
And
way, one of the reasons why I even stepped away
yeah,
from Jeff Johns, because he
yeah,
basically, once he became Hollywood, it was just like,
yeah,
yeah, nah, bro, yeah, nah, like your writing style like now has changed because you've submitted to
yeah,
what's going on in Hollywood right now. So I was like, yeah, let me step away from that,
yeah.
bro.
It's like chasing something that's not there. Like why would you not do that when you have true friends?
Yeah,
Like me,
yeah.
I spent $150 on a freaking book,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I would follow you everywhere and buy anything. But now you're going to change that. And I'm like, nah, thank you, bye.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in
Definitely.
finishing here, you know, I want to really thank you, Lyle, for
No
you
doubt,
know,
man.
for taking time out, man. I know everybody, each hour of the day is so important because like as when we get to my age, everything, to our age, it's like everything's important,
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
spent it. And I really appreciate you coming on
Yeah,
board.
no problem.
And
Anytime, bro.
thank you for sharing your wisdom,
Anytime,
sharing
bro.
your life with me and life with our audience, because it's
Anytime,
some
bro.
it's a lot of people don't get to see the man behind the screen kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
that's what I want to share with people. It's like what's behind what the collecting and the toys and the figures.
Yeah, bro.
So thank you for that. So what I
Anytime.
do here is each time we do a last words, like final words, and so you'll have about 3 to 5 minutes to words of wisdom, whatever, um, promote yourself or promote your sites and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But just something to finish off, what you want to say to the people out there who are into toys and stuff like that. So give me one
Uh,
second. I'm going to put you on full screen,
yeah, 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 no
and we'll
problem.
go from there.
Well, first
All
of
right.
all, thanks for having me, man. I mean, this was definitely a good opportunity to kind of meet individuals pretty much across the pond, across overseas, and have this conversation. I mean, normally for me, man, like I said, the most important thing, when it comes to not just collecting and when it comes to life in general, is if you're passionate about something, definitely be 100% real about it. Embrace it.
Yeah.
um don't compromise. don't
Mm,
don't compromise, and don't become something because of someone else's influence. Stick to your guns. If you love it,
mm,
be passionate about it, and be unapologetically
mm,
into just connecting with it and letting people know this is where you are and this is who you are. Acceptance isn't, you know worrying about someone accepting you is not your job. You know, if they accept you, then that's half the battle. But just being more comfortable with who you are and comfortable in your space and never compromising or wavering, because someone else says, well, that or someone once, tries to come in and just, take over your space or tell you what they think you should do. No, don't, no, never that. And I find that, and if you're more accepting of who you are, and if you're open about it, then that world opens as well. Never be ashamed of who you are. Never be ashamed of, wanting to collect or wanting to share your collection with the world. Never be afraid to hide. Don't hide yourself. Don't internalize. Extend yourself. Externally. And put that energy out there, because when you do it, you're welcoming other people in. You're accepting, that, vibe. You're whatever you're putting out there, you're getting back. And I think people will appreciate you for it. And on top of that, you're influencing others to do the same thing. So I think that's important, man. If I had anything to say to anybody, it's just, stand strong, ground yourself, stand firm, and believe in, what it is that you're creating. Believe in, have a belief in what it is that you're passionate about, and stick to your guns. I would actually definitely say that, and enjoy life. The thing is fun, having fun. Fun has always got to be, it has to be at the forefront, is having fun and being comfortable in that space. Everything else is a bonus. If you develop relationships, if you network with individuals, if something takes off, then that's definitely a bonus. Even if it doesn't, at least you can say that I've tried it, I'm had fun with it, and that's it. You know what I mean? Create and surround yourself around people that are like-minded. That's it. Don't let the ills and spoils of, someone else's opinion influence yours. So that's it.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, man, you're right. If you're true to yourself, people will connect to that.
Yeah.
If you're
definitely.
a poser, like, there's another thing. Like, if you're a poser, people, you won't last in that situation. So
Yeah.
be true to yourself.
Exactly.
Love thyself first, right?
Exactly.
And
You
then
have to.
you'll be able to love other people because you love yourself. If you're a
Exactly.
miserable person, people aren't going to connect with you. And
Exactly.
I love what you just said there, man. Thank you so much for that.
No
All
problem.
right. Thank you, Lael. For everybody else, Kakiteano, thank you for joining us from all the way from New Zealand and all the way from Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Yes, I got it right. I remembered. I have problems with names, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Join us next week. I've got a film director, writer, sci-fi. Oh gosh, you're gonna love it. And I love having all these amazing guests. I just really do having talking to people
Definitely, bro.
and bringing them to you guys out there, because it's just growing the community and knowing the person behind the screen.
Definitely, bro.
And
Definitely.
thank you, Lyle. Bye, everybody.
Anytime, man.